Hello, beautiful people. Welcome. If this is your first time here, wait. First, let me make sure y'all can hear me while I'm talking. Because we all know I be talking and then it don't be no sound. So I see it moving. Oh, we got sound. Okay. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome. If this is your first time here, welcome back. If you are a returning supporter, if you could be so kind as to um, hit the like, subscribe, follow button. If this is your first time here, say hello. Let me know that you're here. I'm gonna go ahead and get my disclaimers out of the way. I'm gonna start with my voice may go in and out. If you've been following me for any number of time in these last 5 months, you'll know that I am currently experiencing um, vocal polyps on my vocal cords. So um, yeah, there's that. I do not tolerate disrespect in any way, shape, form, or fashion that is towards me, towards anyone that appears in the chat, towards anybody that appears on the screen. Um, there will be curse words. There will be tears. My opinion is my opinion. Your opinion is your opinion. Let's come together to gain an understanding of each other's opinions. Um, Trying to think of what else I would usually say. I guess that's it. Oh, I am not a mental health professional. I am just one woman willing to share my personal experiences to let you know two things. One, you are not alone. And two, you can overcome anything that life throws at you. You can overcome it. Um, Again, I am not a mental health professional. I will say multiple times, suggest going to therapy. And while I do mean therapy in a literal sense, if you have someone that you could talk to, that you feel safe with, that could be considered a form of therapy. Yeah, tonight's topic is intergenerational trauma. Intergenerational trauma. Those of you who don't know, or maybe you do know, I'm currently, I I keep saying currently. I feel like for the rest of my life, once you wake up to like reality, I'm not saying that people not living in reality, but I'm speaking from my own personal experience. But once you wake up to like what's important and what's not, you begin to go um you start your journey, I guess. So I am currently on the journey. I know it's a lifelong journey of healing and self discovery. Um, and Actually, nurturing conversations came about because of many of the things that I've experienced on my journey, going through therapy, um, and just thoughts like some people will never go to therapy, and some people will never like admit that they need healing. They won't admit that they're hurt. Um, some people will never understand there are resources that could help them. Some people will never, come into the knowledge of that. And I figured if we have a space, a safe space where people can converse about the things that they are experiencing, um, I'll be doing my part to help humanity. Um, yeah. So tonight we're talking about intergenerational trauma, and if you've been following my journey, you know that I started this journey with my parents because essentially that's where everything starts. Whether we want to admit it or not, that's really where everything starts. And so I talked about feelings of abandonment, feelings of rejection, and then I talked about how having conversations with my parents helped me to understand how they process things at the time, which in turn caused me to understand how I process things. One of the many things that I talked about was grief. My father, before he passed, he expressed to me that he had a daughter, which meant that I had a sister before I was born, and she passed away. and he began to talk to me about like how he felt, what he was thinking, and he said, "No one talked to me about grief." Right? And so when I started to think about no one talking to him about grief, no one talked to me about grief either. Like, if you think about it right now, if you're watching this, right, think about it. Who has ever said to you, here's how you grieve, here's what grief is, and here's how you grieve? I can't, I don't remember. I'm going to say I don't remember because I don't remember anybody talking to me about grief. They said, oh, like when my grandmother died, they were like, oh, you're just really sad. It's like, do you know that there are 12? Hold on. I don't want to say 12. Hold on. There are several stages. That's what I'll say. There are several stages of grief. Hold on. I should have had this up. But, there we go. There are, some say 7, some say 12. There are many stages of grief. There's denial, there's anger, there's bargaining, there's depression, there's acceptance. No one tells us that. no, no, no one tells us this is what grief could look like. I've never heard anybody say, hey, you could be grieving and this is what, I've never heard anybody say that. Literally, there's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. No one has ever talked to me about any of those stages previous to me going to therapy. I've never heard of that. Like when you lose someone that's really close to you, right? People are like, oh, okay, so I guess you're supposed to like mourn them from the time that they pass away until like when they're buried. And like, I guess after that, you're just supposed to get over it. And then I started to think about it, but how do you get over someone that's been so instrumental to your life? Like, how do you let go of the anger? Like you ever noticed, like had somebody that meant the world to you pass away, you like, why did you take them? Why couldn't you? And you start listing names of people that could go in their place. That's like anger. It's like anger and bargaining. Like why don't you take me, or why does it have to be them, or you know, I didn't even let me tell you something else that I didn't even realize. I didn't even realize that yes, there's grief in a literal sense. There's also grief in a figurative sense, right? I had to grieve situations in my life. And you probably like, you don't grieve situation. Yes, I had to grieve. Like when you think about it, loss of a friendship, if you've been friends with somebody for a long time and like that dynamic is shifting, you have to grieve that. It's a part of the process. Like, it's like, oh yeah, they were my friend one day and the next day they're not my friend anymore. You're not just going to be happy, woohoo. Well, I can't say what you will be, but I would say I won't be happy. I had to literally grieve. These last couple of days for me has been wonderfully amazing. Wonderfully amazing. When thinking about intergenerational trauma, I started to think about like my parents, just thinking about them and like what they experienced and what they endured. And then when you think about parents, what is a parent's job? It's to teach your children or instruct your children or raise your children to be productive members of society, raise them to be respectable, honorable human beings, right? But how do you do that if no one has ever taught you to be respectful or honorable? Like, how do you teach someone something that you have no idea about? How do you encourage someone when you have no idea like what they're going through. Like I think about, I was talking to my mom today earlier, and I was thinking about my experiences in college. Right, I my mother was born in the '60s, and so she would tell me all the time like what life was like in the '60s, right? And then one day while she was telling me, she's like, you know, I picked cotton, and I said, you what? You what? She said, yeah, I picked cotton, and I was like, in my mind, I thought that's impossible for you to pick cotton because the slaves picked cotton back in the days. And then it dawned on me like it is possible that she picked cotton. I didn't pick cotton. I haven't picked cotton. I mean, I picked cotton like pillowcases or stuff like that, but I've never picked cotton. But my mother literally was in the fields picking cotton. Do you know like that? So for me, it was like, you know, like you read in the history books. I'm in school. I'm reading in the history books. That's just like seeing the hooded people, right? I would read in the history books what they did to people of color. Um, and then in 1999, when I went to college, I physically saw them with my own eyes. These are, well, I don't have lenses in my glasses, but these two eyes right here physically saw people, the hooded people, not like the neighborhood people, but you know, the hooded people with the pointy, the white, the ghost hooded people. Yeah, I saw them. Like literally, like I'm looking at the camera right now. That's literally how I saw them. And in my mind, I was thinking, like, how the fuck is this possible? Because I'm reading about you in a history book, and now I'm looking at you face to face. Then, when they started to leave like hate mail and monkeys with nooses, like the little stuffed monkeys with nooses wrapped around their neck, and we couldn't go out after a certain time, or we had to be grouped up. When I think about this now, like then it was kind of like this can't be happening in 1999. But now that I look back at it, it was like, oh, that was some real life scary shit. Like you read about the hooded people, like you probably think about it. You probably live in a town, or you're in a place where you like you hear about they have this. You hear about them. It's like a myth, like they there, but you don't really see them. No, like I physically saw them, and I saw the other, like the break off groups. I'm really trying not to say the, y'all know, the other groups that break off from the hooded people. They were all there. They were right around town with their Confederate flags, and we were just looking like we're just here to get an education, just like everybody else. And then I realized that, like, you know, you read about people integrating schools, and I'm like, how are we integrating a college in 1999? How? How are we integrating a college? It's 1999. How is that possible? So you think like things were back in the days. Like I think about my parents, and I'm like, you know, I literally like experienced some of the same experience my parents experienced, which is weird for me to say that. That's weird, but it happens. I started to think about like how my father coped, how my father coped with grief and trauma, and then how it affected me um, with like attachment issues and anxiety, um, and all of those feelings, right? And then like I didn't feel like they were purposely doing it. Like I didn't feel like they were just like, yeah, we're not gonna love her, we're not gonna show her any. No, I didn't feel like they purposely did it. I just wanted to understand. Let me tell you, I don't know what happened, but I feel like this is like my safety thing now. Like I feel my heart beat when I talk about things that I'm passionate about. So I like put my hand right here. Um, but I feel like no one talked to them about it. So instead of, so because no one talked to them about it, um, they had to cope with it the way that they knew how, whether it was going to church, whether it was drugs or alcohol or partying or working all the time. My mom worked all of the time. That's not a bad thing. But I realized two things that she did a lot of, or three things: working, church, and helping others. And you ever thought, it's like, I'm not gonna be like my mom or dad. I'm not gonna do that. I would never. And then if you ever paid attention, like you are really exactly like them. I never said I wasn't gonna be like my mom because I feel like my mom is like when I get her age, I'm gonna be. I like to help. I like to help. The only difference, I like to work and I like to help. The religion thing, we already know where I stand with that. But part of me is like, as I'm processing and understanding why I do the things I do, or did the things that I did, or believe the things that I believe, is just like understanding where I come from. Like many of my family migrated from Mississippi to Wisconsin, and a lot of them didn't want to go back to Mississippi. And here I am, like, yeah, I'm gonna go to Mississippi one day, and but I remember my grandmother wrote, like, I don't know if it was like an essay or she just was journaling her thoughts, and I read it, and it was talking about how, like, when they were in the South, they wanted to get away. They wanted to get away from everything. And when we think about it, it's like, oh yeah, they just moved from down south to up here, but it wasn't like they moved from hell to heaven. It was just a different type of hell. I guess it was a more manageable type of hell. I don't want to call it hell, but y'all know. It wasn't, you in a new place, you don't really know anybody, so you got to establish yourself. It's like it's like so many different things that's not really talked about. So many things that's not talked about. Like one of the big things that I realized about my family, hold on while I take a sip, is that alcoholism is very prevalent in my family. If you think about your family, you probably can think about something that's like, everybody do, but you think it's like, oh, this is just what we do. But the reality of it is not just what you do. It's like something that's like generational. It's like something that's like not addressed. It's like, yeah, cousin Pete over there. No, can't say cousin Pete because Uncle Pete is my residential predator. Like I'd be like, Uncle Pete, I'll get to Uncle Pete in a minute. But you'd be like, man over there would just be drinking, and man, all of these people are fictional, just so y'all know. But you'd be like, man be drinking. He be drunk every time. All I see him is he get drunk. Every party, every picnic, everything he get drunk. No one thought to ask man, is everything okay? Because no one like literally just wakes up and be like, I'm gonna drink today. I personally feel like no one just wakes up and be like, yeah, I'm gonna just drink today. I'm gonna just drink all day. I'm just gonna be drunk. I can say that personally. I wasn't waking up. It's like, yeah, I'm just gonna drink today. I was like, yeah, I don't want to deal with shit today, so let me go ahead and toss back a couple of them. That was me. Now I can't say that that's what everybody, but in my opinion, no one really just wakes up in the morning and be like, yeah, I'm gonna drink today. Not like I'm gonna drink some water or orange juice. Like, no, let me get some of that Seagrams or that Jack Daniels, or let me get some of that vodka or that gin. Like, nobody just, that's not what people do. I feel like a lot of people hide behind alcoholism. Like you ever went to a party with a friend and like they're usually shy, but when they get that liquor up in them, they ready to turn up. One of my one of my godmothers said to me, excuse me, she said, people who get drunk and be ready to fight or tell people how they really feel, she said, is drunken thoughts of a sober mind. She said those people really been wanting to say that stuff to whoever they say it to. They've been really wanting to say it or do it. They just didn't have the courage to do it. So then the song came out, Liquid Courage. That gives people courage to do shit that they would have never done sober. Even the fact that we have to say people would get drunk to say shit that they should have said sober, that should be a red flag, I should say. I feel like how can we expect the older generation to help us when nobody helped them? Or how, like, right now, like, this is why I feel like in my 40s, that's why I say I want to be light, love, and positivity, because I think about it. I was surrounded by elders. I was surrounded by elders who were pouring so much into me. Sometimes I got tired of listening to it, but now when I think about it, I am grateful for having people that was just pouring into me. Pouring, like, don't, like, not like do what I say, but like showing me the way, showing me alternatives, providing me with resources, letting me know, like, hey, the shit that happened to you, that was just something that happened to you. That does not determine where your life goes. I wish more people were open to talking. I'm grateful. I'm grateful right now. I'm experiencing this vocal situation, and before I would not tell anybody. I come from a family of strong women, strong black women, strong, like strong. Whatever in your mind you think strong, strong. Um, and so I thought about it like I didn't see my mother cry until I was 18. I'm pretty sure she cried. I just never saw it until I was 18, and I saw her cry when I first went into the hospital. That was the first time I ever saw her cry. But I knew you in your mind, you're like, yeah, I know you cry, but I never seen her cry. I never seen her do anything but give to people, and I've seen people treat her horribly and do really fucked up things. Hello, beautiful butterfly. And I've seen her still be gracious in that. And for me, that was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. One time in my life, I can say I seen my mom go. I seen my mom that she had reached that level. One time, we were sitting on the bus stop, going home. We're like, hey, can we go to McDonald's? And she was like, yeah, let's go. We go to McDonald's. And we went to McDonald's and we had ordered food. And we was excited because back when I was coming up, McDonald's is like a luxury. Like you got McDonald's, you definitely did something right, because she was cooking all the time. But if you ate out, you know what I'm saying. So we're sitting on the bus stop and this man walk up and like we all sitting there, we not thinking he about to do something. So he's sitting up and he's like, hey, Miss Lady, you got some change? And my mom was like, no, I don't have any change. I just brought my kids something to eat. And this man snatched our McDonald's, right? And I saw my mother, like, I don't know if she saw red, but I thought I saw her see red. And she he's grabbing towards the thing, and he grabbed one of the bags and she just threw the bags and stood in front of us and pushed us back. And we over here like, I know this didn't just try. I know he didn't just try to steal our McDonald's. We waited hard. We worked hard for that McDonald's. But now that I'm older, when I was younger, I was like, man, we really want that McDonald's. But then I thought in my mind, like, my mom was protecting us. She didn't give a fuck about that McDonald's. We did. But she cared more about us being okay. We could always get McDonald's another day. I think that's probably why I don't like McDonald's now. Hmm. That could be. It could be. I didn't think about that. How I work. I'm processing. Y'all see, I'm processing live right now. I'm work on that. Then I started to think like, I didn't even see my mom cry when my uncle and grandmother passed away. I don't remember seeing her cry. I remember her being sad, but I don't remember seeing her cry. I remember her working and I remember her going to church, but I don't remember her seeing her cry. So then I got to the point where I started to turn my emotions off. I call it turning your emotions off because I feel like right now, today, as the 42-year-old self, I will cry in a minute. I will cry. I will talk about what's going on with me. I will find someone I feel safe talking with and I will talk about it. Actually, I don't. I talk about it. I come here and talk to y'all about it. I let that go. I'm not holding on to shit. When I tell y'all, when you experience so much shit in your life and you throw it in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, I'll get to it one day. I'll get to it one day. I got too much stuff. I got to go to work. I got to take care of the kids. I got to take care of my husband, wife, baby mama, baby daddy, girlfriend, whatever. And one day I'll get to myself. And I started to think about it, right? I started to think about every time in my life when I got sick. And every time in my life when I got sick, instead of just sitting down and being still, I was like, I got to get back to it. I got to do this. I got to do that. And then every time the next situation happened, I'll be still for a little bit. Fast forward to March 18th, 2022. This time, I'm on a journey of healing and self-discovery. I'm understanding like how I came to be. I'm understanding how situations came to be in my life. I'm understanding how I allowed shit, how I didn't allow shit. I'm understanding all of this. And then I said to myself, I literally said to myself, I said, you know what? You pray. You pray, you hope, you wish for one day where you could just be, I don't want to say at peace because I don't want to sound like I'm trying to talk about internet sh. No, I'm not that. It's just where you just calm. You don't have to worry, like look over your shoulder, like you worried about people doing stuff to you. So now this happened, and I'm just sitting here, and I'm just like twiddling my fingers, like what am I going to do? I want to do videos, but I don't feel inspired to do it. I want to make music, but I don't feel inspired to do that. It's like why can't I do anything? Why can't I write? Why can't I sing? Why can't I do anything? And all I kept hearing was rest. Rest was all I kept hearing. And every time I heard the words rest, I would think like, I can't rest because I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this. And I kept hearing, it just seemed like, I promise you, it seemed like it kept getting louder. And I was just like, but if I rest, who's going to do? And then it was like, why does anyone need to do that? And I'm just sitting here thinking like, all of my life, I've been busy. I've worked hard because I saw my mom. My mom worked hard. Like when we were growing up, we had literally everything a child could possibly want to have. We had it, from video games to like we had our own shoe styles. Like one was Jordans and one was Flights, and I was any cute shoes that looked cute on girls' feet. I had lace socks. I had anything I could have possibly wanted. Like my mom provided for us, like the material things, and then I was just like, I really just wanted to spend time with her. Like I wanted to have nail and makeup days or spa days or shit like that, right? And then as I started to get older, I was like, I realized I spent a lot of time with my uncles. Uncles, they're hip hop artists, so they traveled the world. They, did hip hop, what rappers do or whatever. And so they were always telling me things like, this is why, if you know me, been around me for any number of time, if you watched a couple of videos, I be cleaning my fingernails so much. My uncles were like, hey, if somebody come and talk to you and they got dirty fingernails, if they don't work as a mechanic or landscaping or something that requires them to have dirty fingernails, they dirty. He's like, hey, check their shoes if they shoes. And I was just like, so they schooled me on all of that, right? And then my other uncle, he's like a doctor and he's a theologian, and he's like it was lectures after lectures. Like right now you're probably thinking like, yeah, I had somebody that talked to me about everything. And then you probably at that time was like, damn, I gotta go because the party happened, or I gotta do this. And right now today I am so grateful that I can reminisce, or I could remember those conversations. Like I can pull it when I go to pitch my business. I can remember with my uncle, the like pep talk he would always give me before I had to do anything major. And I was just like, I am so fortunate. Like, yes, I did experience some fucked up shit. This intergenerational trauma. We're going to talk about it. But at the same time, the universe put people around me to make sure, like, hey, yeah, it's really sad that happened to you. Don't let that change you. I thought about when I was growing up, and like, like your parents be like, hey, that's not your friend. Or you think that's your friend, but that's not your friend. And you like, that's my friend. We done been through some tough shit. That's my bro. We done. And then you kind of find out like that person really ain't your friend. Or that situation really wasn't what you thought it was. I be thinking about all the times my mother would say things to me, and I'd just be like, we be thinking like they old, like they don't know. But then we got to remember, like, our parents experience things too. Like, I remember my mom talking about, like, when she moved out of my grandmother's house, and I was like, oh, if I could have still been living at home, I would most definitely live at home. I don't know about y'all, but I would. Like, when I think about how much I pay a month to stay in a house, that don't include food and gas. I would be at home expeditiously. If you are a young person and you're anxious to get out in the world, try paying rent at your mom's or your dad's or your grandparents' house first. I think that's what you should do. I think parents should like charge a certain amount, like that would be good. This is what I think. I think that parents should charge for like rent, lights and internet. Rent, light, and internet. You could charge for food, but I mean rent, light, and internet. And those are the three things that I mainly focus on because I do YouTube and Twitch and Facebook or live stream, TikTok. I definitely need lights and I definitely need rent. I need a place to stay. But when you start thinking about how much you actually pay a month, even if you have a mortgage or you own your house, think about how much you pay a month or how much you pay a year. I was having a conversation with my friend. He's like, man, I wish my parents would have taught me about credit. How do you expect somebody who don't even know about credit to teach you about credit? Think about it. Half of us in our 40s, credit was burned by the time we turned 18 because our parents still had a light bill, cable bill, phone bill in our name. And then you have to be like I don't want to file a fraud charge on our parents. So this is me hypothetically speaking. It did not happen to me. If you're listening, it's a hypothetical thing. Y'all know, y'all picking up what I'm putting down. Anyways, but half of us didn't have that luxury of even like messing up our own credit. We didn't even have that. We didn't even know what credit was. I mean, I was fortunate enough to go to a predominantly white school where they're teaching me how to balance a checkbook. And I was looking at it like, who the hell gonna be writing checks? I'm gonna give me one of those little plastic cards. What I need a checkbook for? But it was dope figuring out how to balance a checkbook. Figuring out how to balance a checkbook, creating budgets. Like we don't know about budgets. They wasn't teaching us about budgets. We would go to the grocery store. This is why I appreciate my mom, right? She was teaching us things that now that I think about it right now, I'm grateful for. Like I was Tomboy, if y'all thank y'all who tuned in last night for karaoke. Tomboy was here last night and we were just talking about all the different things like we learned. All the different things we learned. Like I was thinking about how think about this, right? Like my mom is the oldest girl, right? She lost her two brothers. The only sibling she have left is my auntie Ducky, and she's the youngest. She's the youngest sibling. Let me tell y'all this, right? For a long time in my family, until I'm going to actually admit, until just recently, right? I used to think that my auntie Ducky, my uncle Ed, he's deceased, God bless the dead, was the youngest child. I always thought it was my mom, my uncle James, my auntie Ducky, and my uncle Ed. It wasn't until I want to say last year that I found out that my auntie Ducky was the youngest. And so then when I found out that she was the youngest, and I was like, wait, you're the oldest and you're the youngest, and y'all all y'all got, it really hit me. It was like, of my grandmother is deceased, but of my grandmother's children, they're the only two. And then I started to think about, like if you come from a family like you've never lost, like there's people who've never lost anybody in their immediate family. And for me, 1995 was really tough. This is why I started with grief, because no one told me about grief. November 1st, I want to say, or the first week of November, I lost my uncle. And Thanksgiving night, 1995, I lost my grandmother. So in 1 month, I had lost two of the most amazing people in 1 month. On top of all of the other shit that was happening to me at a young age, no one talked to me about molestation. No one talked to me about grief. No one talked to me about depression. No one talked to me about alcohol. No one talked to me about sex. No one talked to me about any of those things. It was like things that you would just learn. Like, you kicking it with your girls and they like, hey, he fine. They telling you, you're literally learning secondhand about all of this stuff. And then I really started to think like I was so grateful to have gone to a predominantly white schools because they were literally teaching everything, like everything. And then I would come home and I'm just like, but nobody's talking to me about this. But they did tell me about Jesus and they did take me to church, but they wasn't talking to me about like stuff, you should be having conversations about. Like now people would be like, let me know if they're touching you and you're. But nobody was talking to me about that. And I started to wonder, like, I wonder if my mom, or I wonder if my auntie, or I wonder, like, what kind of life did my grandmother live? Like, you wonder, like, what kind of experiences that they experienced. Like, everyone talked about education in my family. Like, education is going to be your way out. You're going to be successful. You got to get an education. And then if you ever thought, hold on as I sip. Have you ever really thought about education? I don't. Recently, I've been sitting and thinking about education. Like, I was fortunate. Again, I'm going to keep saying this. I was fortunate. It wasn't no. I didn't wake up and was like, yeah, send me to chapter 220s and have to experience all the shit I experienced. But I'm grateful for it now. In my 40s, I'm grateful for it. But when you actually look at school, right, do it kind of, I'm asking for your opinion, does it kind of remind you of like jail or prison? I kind of feel like, just me personally, I kind of feel like that's what it reminds me of. Like, you go, you have to sit in line, sometimes you have to wear a uniform, you eat mm, pretty much whatever they make in the kitchen. I don't know, it just seems jailish to me. And then, if you think about what's being taught at school, like, one of my friends, I hope she's watching. I hope she's watching. I hope she's hearing me when I say this. One of my friends called me and was like, what do you think about people not wanting to be called he or she? And I was like, I was waiting for the day when we didn't have to identify as any one of those. And she was like, wait, what? I was like, how, who gave you the right to tell me what I could call myself? Like, think about it, right? When you were born, it was probably suggested to you that your favorite color either be pink or blue. Like, did you come out like in mauve or burgundy or teal? Like, you could only play with Barbie dolls and jump ropes and hula hoops for girls, and boys could only play with basketballs, footballs, baseballs, trucks, guns, all of those things. Like, that's what we're like. There, that's the men's bathroom. That's the women's bathroom. Like, you are a girl and you are a boy. I watched this. I watched this. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna look at it. I'm gonna be real when I get it all together. September, I'm hoping to have it all together. But when I get it all together, this is gonna be good because I'm gonna be able to put these. I'm gonna put these things in the chat. Like, it's gonna be like quickly. I'm gonna be able to quickly put these things in the chat. But I watched the TEDx talk. Okay. So in my mind, I have this theory, right? Cuz we would hear about people being born differently, and most people would be like, "No, God would never make somebody like that." But the reality of it is God makes all kinds of people, right? So in my mind, I would when I was growing up, they were talking. There was talk about hermaphrodites. Is that what it's called? Hermaphrodites. It's like people who were born with both genitalias, right? And so in my mind, when they were talking about this at school, and I would honestly think like, what happens if the parents decide that they want a girl or a boy? Let's say the parents decide that they want a daughter, right? So the parents decide that they want a daughter. So the doctors, do what they do and make them a son. But what happens when that child grows and they don't feel like a daughter? They feel like a son. What happens? So I was having a conversation with someone and they was like, hey, have you saw Emily Has Balls? And I was like, no, I have not seen Emily Has Balls. And I was like, I need to check this out. Hold on, I'm trying to see where I can put it. Oh, there's my phone. Oh, I'm gonna put it on. I'm gonna put it in the chat right now. One moment, please. Un momento. Oh, you know what's so messed up? Y'all can't even see me. That's so sad. Wait. Oh, y'all do see me. Sorry. I thought y'all couldn't see me. But hold on, I'm going to put it in the chat right now. There is a woman who literally experienced the exact thing I had questions about. When I saw this, I was just like, think about how many times people make decisions for us. I'm just typing in the chat. Sorry, y'all. Excuse me. So I just put it in the chat. Um, think about how many times like people they didn't feel I don't feel like a boy or I don't feel like a girl. And then think about people that make fun of people like you're not entitled like babies aren't entitled to determine who they want to be or what sex they are. Like we're not we're not given that option. It's decided by our parents. Like our names are decided by our parents. What if I used to think when I was younger, like, what if I don't want to identify as anything? Like, for years, I didn't really take the census. I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but if I do, hey, I didn't think about the census. Like, when you go to fill out a job application, I never like marked off African American. I never literally marked off one box. I would always put other and I would put human being every time. Like, why do I have to identify as anything? And so they're talking to me, and I was like, no, I don't. I don't want to identify. Can I just be a human being? That's an identification. I would rather just be that. Like, I don't want to be like I'm black, I'm a female, I'm straight, gay, bi. I don't want to have to like. That's too many. It's too many things that we have to identify as. And then if one day I'd be like, you know what? I don't want to be that today. I want to be something else. Like that's the options that we are given as human beings. Like we could choose whatever we want to be. I watched Emily Has Balls and I put it in a chat so y'all could check it out. I really encourage you to check it out cuz it helps you to think about options. And if you're a parent, you definitely should watch it because maybe one day your child will grow up and be opposite, completely opposite of what you thought or expected them to be. I'm grateful for people like Emily that's willing to share her story despite of how it will be perceived. Because when you hear like Emily Has Balls, you're like, oh, what does that mean? But if you watch it, it's like really like, holy shit. Brief synopsis: she was a woman. She's a human being born with both male and a female reproductive, or not reproductive, but organs, like, those things. I think about how my mom must have felt. I'm skipping all around. I had to go back to this because I just thought about it. I thought about how my mom felt losing her mom and her brother in 1 month. Like, that's some insurmountable grief. Like, I knew I was beyond grief. Like, I was completely devastated. Like, I don't know about you, but like my grandmother, like she was like the matriarch of everybody's family. Like she was the big sister, but wasn't even a big sister. Like she was the glue that held. You probably think about your grandmama or somebody in your family. It's like they the glue that hold us all together. Like yeah, she was definitely that. Definitely that. And then to lose her when I already got so much shit going on, and then no one is expressing like grief, like this is what's going to happen to you. Like think about a time in your life where you're like, damn, I know, or you felt like you were the only person going through something, right? But the reality of it is, I'm pretty sure your parents, like if you are a mother, if you are a mother, I'm pretty sure there are some things you were able to like talk to your girlfriends or talk to your aunties or family members about, like, okay, what do I have to look forward to, or what am I going to experience? And they were able to tell you some things, or some people felt comfortable enough to talk about it, or for some people, it was really traumatic. Like in my mind, when I be thinking about it now, like, can you imagine what the medical shit was like back in those days? And I'm saying it like it was a long time away, but think about all the advancements and technologies that we have like right now, and think about back when your parents, like my mom is like 61, so when I think back, it's like, ooh, y'all were like, they were literally testing shit out. Think about the Tuskegee Airmen and all those people that like were like tested on, Henrietta Lex, like all of those people. Even think about like slavery or the civil rights, and how our parents, I'm just gonna say grandparents, but some of our parents experienced that shit. Like, if no one talked to them about that, how are they supposed to like deal? Like, they're just little kids, going to the bubbler. They don't know, like, oh no, you can't drink out of that bubbler. Like, how do we think that, or if I really want to, for September, I really want to have guests on my show. And I've been working to like build it up, like get more people to come and watch or come and participate. And I've been working on that because I want to actually talk to more people. I want it to just be not just a conversation between me and you, but I want other people to come and be comfortable and share their stories, right? Because I feel like when we watch like LeBron James, or we watch Michael Jordan, or we watch anybody on TV, or even if you're looking at people on YouTube or Instagram or Twitter, we looking at people on social medias, we look at those people and be like, damn, one day I'm gonna be there, one day I'm gonna be rich, one day I'm gonna have a nice house, one day I'm gonna have this, one day, right? So we want to be like that. But what if the people around us told us their stories more? What if your mom actually sat down with you and was like, hey, um, I am this way with you all because this is how my parents were with me. Or when I was growing up, my father was an alcoholic, or my mother was on drugs, or whatever it is, and we had to fend for ourselves. You remember, like, you would hear the older people was like, man, when we were coming up, we had to walk to school. Y'all getting rides and get to catch the bus. No, we had to walk miles to school. But if we even start thinking about like the trauma of that, like, I grew up in the 80s, so when I think about the 80s, is like the crack. There was crack everywhere. You think about how your parents' life was before they had you. Like, what was their home life like? Did they get home cooked meals? Was your mother the oldest, or was your father the oldest, and they had to do what they needed to do? Like, I think about all the elders who had to drop out of school to take care of their families. So we wonder why when we go to high school, we're graduating and we're excelling. We wonder why they're so excited. That's because they're living through us. Now, that's not a good or a bad thing, but I mean, they're living through us. Like, think about all those people who had to go to the colored and the white bubblers, and now you can go anywhere and drink from the bubbler and go anywhere and sit. Well, kind of, because we've been seeing situations, but it's not like it was when they were growing up. Imagine the people that's been in prison for a long time and they actually come out of prison. Think about that. Like, if we If we think about those experiences that like or look like if our mothers were with people, or if you are watching this and you had a mother who stayed with somebody because she was thinking about the kids, like she didn't want the kid, I don't want my kids to be without their father, I don't want my kids to have to struggle. But think about how them staying affected you. I be telling people all the time, like especially around me, when they were like, "Well, I'm just gonna make it work for the kids." Number one, I know as an adult, you already know. You know when the shit ain't working. You know. They be like, "Oh, my grandmother stayed with my granddaddy, and he had a whole family around the corner." If we be real, like we think about those times, right? They wasn't written to women. They wasn't written to women. Like that mean that your grandma would have to put extra on her. Like so, for her, it made sense to say. I'm pretty sure she did what she needed to do while she was there. I'm pretty sure. Like I want to like talk to the older generations. Like I got something that I got in the works. I'm doing something that I got in the works that I'm gonna be sharing in September. But I want to talk to the older generations. Like, hey, if you could say something to your older self right now, what would you say? Because I know, like, I know there's so many different things. Like I'm doing this. I'm also doing this in the music, on the music side. Like if you were able to say one thing, like think about it, right? If you think about the music industry, right? When you see them talking about their girlfriends or who they with, like what's her name? Lori Harvey, right? Lori Harvey, right? Steve Harvey, her father wrote a book about um whatever, don't think like a man, whatever the book was about. I just realized that this baby is in her. I'm calling her baby. She's a grown woman, but she's only in her 20s. She done dated men from 50, mid 50s, all the way down to like 18, 19, all of that. But her father is writing books about men and women, and he's got a whole talk show. It's for me, it's like, how, what are those kind of conversations like? Like, how did Steve Harvey look when she brought Diddy to the? She dating Diddy, and he brings like he probably was like, wasn't you just dating his son too? But in my mind, it's like what? And then it's like, well, yeah, she's young and she's dating, and she's is like, really? Like we just not gonna talk about the fact that 50 to 19 and multiple. Like I get dating, I get it, I get it. But at some point, something on the inside of me says something is broken. And this is just my opinion, where I already gave my disclaimer. My opinions are my opinions, your opinions are your opinions. Something is broken. Something is most definitely broken, especially with the 55-year-old man, because somebody just went to jail for date. We ain't gonna go too far over there, but somebody just went to jail. Yes, she was in her 20s, but I'm just saying, like, that's Diddy is the same, almost the same age as her father. Like when I was growing up, they wasn't. They didn't talk about the old man that would ride across, like when you're walking to your bus stop and the old man's riding in the Cadillac Brohams, blowing their horns, trying to get you to come to the car. They're not talking about the old man sitting at the corner store. Like they didn't tell you to, oh, look out for these people. They wasn't telling you to look out for these people, but your friends was. Your friends was like, hey, if you see that burgundy Cadillac Broham, don't go. Keep walking. If the doughboy from the neighborhood try to talk to you, keep walking. Don't say nothing to them. Just keep walking. Don't even look back, because if you look back, he gonna think that he got you. Keep walking. Our real life was thinking about like nobody. We're not trying to tell the next generation. We see them. We see them wilding out. We see them. Like I wish like someone who like I like K Michelle. I'm gonna tell you why I like K Michelle. I like K Michelle because I like her voice, anyways. But I like the fact that K Michelle is like, hey, I got some fucked up surgeries. Let me tell y'all. Let me talk about it. I wish more people start talking about BBLs. Like when I started seeing, like you see all the beautiful BBLs, but more people need to come out and talk about like the fucked up BBLs or the fucked up liposuction or those things because we don't hear a lot about those. But I'm sure they happen. Quite sure they happen. Not everybody is professional BBLers. Intergenerational trauma. I think I was playing in my hair the other day and I thought to myself like, ugh, I remember it's like if my mother was still doing my hair, I would not have dreads. I would have long hair, long straight hair, long straight hair. I remember when I was growing up and I used to get straightening comb like, oh, I had so many burn marks on my ear, on my forehead from the straightening comb. Like I don't know who invented it and was like, you know what? We're gonna market this to black women, and black women is gonna use it because they're gonna straighten little girls' hair. Put the wax on there, and then it's like, shh. And then if you ever got burnt, they was like, it wasn't a straightening comb; it was just the heat from the straightening comb. I thought about how traumatic that was for me, and then I used to think about getting perms, and then it was like one day when I was older, my mom said something to me. She was like, "You're not gonna get a perm," and I was like, "No, I love my hair naturally is curly and like deep wavy, like my mom's hair. My mom has the most beautifulest hair ever. Like it never gets nappy. Like hers is like curl, like she has real life mixed hair. So when I stopped curling my hair and I cut my hair completely off, my mom was heartbroken. And I'm not laughing at the fact that she was heartbroken. She was heartbroken. And I thought, like, this is my hair. I have to walk around with this. Like, this is me. And so then she's like, well, you need to, like, put a wig or you not need to do something to it. And I was just like, how is it that my hair is affecting you this much? And that's when it dawned on me. Parents Parents care more about what other people think about their parenting than what their own kids think about their parenting. Again, this is just my opinion. Like, think about it, right? If you are a parent, if you take your child to Walmart, guarantee you they will stop and look at those light up shoes. But as a parent, you will say, you ain't getting no shoes. You can put those Jordans on over there, or you could put those Dookies, or Dookies is Air Force Ones, or you could put those Converse on over there, or you probably wouldn't even let them wear Converse. Or, they just look, they just, it's like kids don't know the difference between, it's just shoes for them, and it's light and they light up. Like, I'll be telling my siblings, I was like, y'all go way, parents nowadays go way out for birthdays. Way. They turn in a whole, like, I understand sweet 16s and stuff like that, but like they turn in a whole galas. Like, remember we was growing up, we didn't go to no hotels. They renting out hotels. They renting out like full, like, fat kids can't even ride rides, ain't tall enough to ride. Parents is going way out. And then I started to think, like, them kids don't get no fuck about they don't give no fuck about none of that. No, none of that. And then they be like, you shouldn't be your child's best friend. But if you always if your kid's always coming to you and asking you for things and you provide, you gonna be their best friend. You gonna be their best friend. But that one time you tell them you can't do it, oh, I had the worst childhood ever. I didn't have a worst childhood. My childhood was pretty, with the exceptions of the shit that I experienced. I say when I went to church, like, my immediate family was great. My family outside of my grandmother's kids, great. I didn't have any problems in any one of those situations. It was only in the religious situation that I experienced problems or issues or situations. Ooh, that was the only thing. I thought, like, I personally feel like um, people continuously wait on Jesus to change situations that they have the knowledge and know-how, the wisdom and know-how to do themselves. That's how I feel. That's what I think. I think like people wait for Jesus to give them a house when it's like you don't even know where you want to live. You don't even know like what kind of house. Do you want a ranch style? Do you want a duplex? Do you want a trailer home? Do you want a tiny home? Like we don't. I feel like sometimes our experiences hinders us from being greater. Like if you think about a family like who like think about those family who has really athletic kids and like say they got one athletic kid and he's like, yeah, he's a superstar, and then somebody who's not thinking with their right mind at a moment take that superstar away. It's like the family dreams have been dashed because everybody was banking on that person to go. Or think about these kids that's like in college right now or high school. Well, now they can like monetize their own image, which was when we were in college and playing basketball and all that shit. We wanted that shit. Like you couldn't take meals, you couldn't take a lot of shit because they was like, no, that is against the NCAA rules, and just looking like, who gonna know? Oh, but those people always knew. But now it's like think about it, right? How many times have you heard people say, I just want to buy my mama a house? I just want to buy my mama a house. I was telling my brother, I was like, I want to find some land. Like, I want to buy the actual land, buy a bunch of land, and put like tiny homes on it. Or buy old school buildings and like turn them into like little apartments for the homeless or mothers with kids that are homeless. Like I want to do something where like I'm just not walking around the earth waiting for the time my expiration date. I want to be productive. I want to help other people be productive. I want to help other people know like I want to help you know like, hey, you don't have to do that. You don't have to be shitty. You don't have to treat people shitty because you was treated shitty. I said to somebody, I said, my parents did the best that they could. And they're like, no, your mama could have did, your daddy could have did. I said, no, they actually did the best. I'm surprised that they were able to do what they did. Now, as a 42-year-old woman, that's what me and Tomboys in the chat. We were talking the other day. I was like, I am so grateful that my mom sent me to chapter 220. Here I am upset because I couldn't go to the neighborhood schools, but I'm grateful because now as a 42-year-old woman, I can look back and say, I am grateful for the experiences. I was telling her, I done seen Wicked. If you don't know what Wicked is, the Broadway play. It's really good. I done seen Wicked. I don't know how many times. I went to Broadway. Like I had the opportunity to go and tour Europe. Like I've been allotted so many opportunities. And so many opportunities to even like open doors for other people. Like when I think about that, like I could have been something totally different. I could have been something totally different. But I was fortunate. Like when I thought like my mom and my grandmother was like kind of in a heated debate. I say it was heated because when I was before my grandmother passed, it was like a big deal because my grandmother wanted to name me Persephone, and my mother was like, her name's gonna be Ashel. So for a little minute, I didn't have a name, and then my mom, I guess, was like, this is my child, and I'm gonna name her what I want to name her, and thus my name is Aishel. But I was like, you know what? It'd be dope one day if I have a daughter, I name her Persephone. And then I was starting to think like, no, I wouldn't name my daughter in 2022 Beverly. I mean, it's a good homage to my mom. That's my mom's name. It's a good homage, but it's like it's 2022. I gotta name them something that's empowering. Like for a long time, I was growing up and no one called me Aishel. When I started to get in my teens, that bothered me because it was like I've been around y'all for like ever, and you don't even know my real name because you just call me whatever you want to call me. So then I was like, call me either Aishel or nothing. Don't call me anything. And people was like, oh, it's gonna take me some time to get used to. And the kids walking around calling me like Aishel, Titi, Aishel, Aishel, and I'm just looking like, how is it kids can understand, but adults? And then I was like, oh, adults don't want to do it. That's you don't want to call me by my real name because you don't want to do that. I would prefer you do it, but you don't want to do that. Think about how many nicknames families was given just because they couldn't either say your real name or they just didn't want to call you your real name. I think about when we talk about intergenerational trauma, I think about mental health. I know I probably just said a cuss word right there. I really didn't, but mental health, like something that needs to be talked about more. I'm telling you, when I think about September, I want to elevate it. It's we have 5 more months left in this year. I want to elevate it to where I'm literally helping people. I literally want to be able to be like, if you feel like you have a mental illness, it's important for you to get help. It's okay for you to get help. It's okay for you to admit that you have a mental illness, especially if you have kids, because while you may feel that that mental illness isn't showing in you, it will come up in your children or their children. Intergenerational trauma. I think about, like, we can literally talk about this. We could talk about trauma from like our parents or our grandparents, that they experienced. Maybe your grandmother wasn't able to work because they weren't hiring women at that time, or like maybe your grandfather had to work in a factory because he had 50, 11 kids. Y'all remember at that time? Y'all remember when grandmas was having like 10 plus kids, 16 plus kids? They ain't having kids like that no more. Your granddaddy had to go and work and make sure that all of the kids ate. All of them, they was making food out of scraps. Like they had gardens. I want to say, I said scraps, but they was, they was taking like food and making meals. They was using chitterlings. Chitterlings was a meal for some people. Y'all remember when your grandma and them used to cook beans and cornbread? I love beans. My mom had cooked the other day. She made fried chicken breast, or air fried chicken breast. I gotta say it like that. Air fried chicken breast, macaroni and cheese, and lima beans. And me and Kira went over there, and I was like, "Ooh, Kira, you want to try the beans?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'll try them." So I put like 3 beans on her plate, and she's like, "Oh my God, those beans are so good." And I looked at her, it's like, "Girl, these are my favorite beans. You definitely my niece." Not that she wouldn't be my niece, but And she was like, "I love lima beans." And she asked my mom for the recipe. She's 7. And I was just looking like, I remember when my grandmother was making me eat Brussels sprouts and asparagus. And I was like, I'm never I'm never going to eat this stuff. Why do I have to eat it now? And now, as a 42-year-old woman, what is my two favorite vegetables? Brussels sprouts and asparagus. And then you look at the health benefits of stuff, and then it's just like, we used to think that they were just forcing us to do things, when in reality, a lot of times they were like looking looking out for us in the long run. We used to eat oatmeal for breakfast, or my favorite is cream of wheat. Oh, do y'all remember cream of wheat? We used to eat that for breakfast, and before it was like, then you get to a certain age where you able to buy breakfast and stuff. I still be eating grits and cream of wheat. My grandmother's just like, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And then you think about it, you eat breakfast in the morning, you be full to like dinner time. When I started doing intermittent fasting, right? Fasting, growing up at church, you fast all the time. But when you take away all of the like, oh, I gotta fast today. But when you like have the passion for it, it's like, oh, I wish somebody would have told me this, like talk to me about fasting like this, and not like, well, we gonna fast and God gonna do, and then God never do. But I just pushed my plate back and He still didn't do it. So I could have been eating whatever at that time. I think about how religion definitely played a huge role in the process of my life. An extremely huge role. And now that I'm 42, I don't subscribe to organized religion. Um, I don't disrespect anyone that do. I just don't. And I talk about it here, but I'm not like, oh yeah, this is what I. Mm-mm. Because a lot of people that I know are still in organized. My mom's still in organized religion. I used to think like my grandmother used to like teach Sunday school. My grandfather or grandmother, one of them, used to teach Sunday school, and my mom used to be so excited to tell me because my mom is a Sunday school teacher. But it's like, outside of Jesus, we weren't. I mean, we were talking about education, business, alcoholism. Like there's some topics like my family real life told. Like they talked about anger. They talked about like family love. Um, they talked about a lot of shit, but they didn't talk about mental health. They didn't talk about sex. They didn't talk about abuse. They didn't talk about generational curses. I don't know. I just threw that in there. They didn't talk about any of that. It wasn't trying to address that. Like when I was talking about how strong my mom was, like I real life didn't think like, I literally said last year, I was like, I denounce I denounce the title of a strong black woman. I denounce it. I'm not knocking it. I just denounce it. Like, I want people to see, like, when my nieces and nephews come over here, y'all see they be over here all the time. I want them to see me cry. Not like, oh, I'm depressed, but I want them to see me that it's okay to cry. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be hurt. It's okay to express your feelings, your emotions. All of those things are okay. We're not we're not encouraged to cry. We're not encouraged to talk about how you feel. I remember one day somebody was like, you never let your enemy, what is it? Your opponent, you never let your opponent see you cry. And I was like, no, I want them to see me cry. I want them to know that I'm human. I want them to know, like, hey, this shit is beyond me. I want them to know that. I want you to know I am a fucking human being. I want you to know that. I want you to know if you say some fucked up shit, I'm going to tell you that shit was real fucked up what you said. What you did was real fucked up. Because when we think about it, the grand scheme of things, if you've been operating the same way if you've been operating the same way your entire life and nobody told you what you were doing is wrong, w- you wouldn't know that you need to change. If your grandmother has been doing the same thing since she's had kids and it's just like second nature for, like Uncle Pete. Uncle Uncle Pete, people was like, why you keep talking about Uncle Pete? Because people need to talk about Uncle Pete. Uncle Pete, Auntie Susan, these are fictional names, but yeah, I know Uncle Pete. Uncle Pete is a resident family predator. His name probably ain't Uncle Pete. His name, but you know his name. You know her name. You know they name. And the real wild thing is to be like, it'd be Uncle Pete, and then somehow his kids get away to do the same thing that Uncle Pete was doing. Everybody knows that it's happening. That's like intergenerational trauma. Everybody knows what's happening, but no one takes the initiative to say, hey, Uncle Pete, you got to chill out on this shit. Or Uncle Pete, let's go get some help. You would think that your grandmother, his mother, would do that. But then she would have to admit, oh, hold on, I'm going to take a sip right here. Your grandmother would have to admit to herself. This is not saying that she actually failed as a parent, but she would have to admit that somewhere she failed. And adults don't be liking to admit when they failed. They can fuck up 5 kids and still won't say I messed up. Oh, sorry y'all, that was my fan. Ah, hold on, y'all. Hold on. I'm trying to get it. Got it. Okay. Yeah, I feel like families should get family members help. Like I tell my family like I would go to group therapy. It was like you love therapy. It's not it's not that I love therapy as hey poetic CNT. Oh my god, I missed you. I miss you so much. I do. I just said I was going to send you a email message. I'm still going to do that. Yeah, I see you here, but I'm still going to send you an email message. But for me, it's like if our parents didn't take the time to get healed or overcome or come through or talk about or process the shit that they went through, how are we supposed to do it? No one's going to be like, hey, girl, come over here and talk to me. Because now, if you think about it, right, everybody is so trust now. Trust is like few and far between. Think about right now, think about how many people in your life you trust. Think about how many people in your life you trust. Few and far between. Trust. Think about how many times you've been cheated on, lied to. Like, if you think about all that, like, who's taught you how to process that? You probably think, I don't need to process. Like, I was literally laughing because I was like, the crazy thing, I think this is so crazy that once you get out of a relationship, people will say this to you. I thought this was the craziest shit. I never had anybody say this to me, but somebody said this to me once I was experiencing my breakup. They was like, it's time for you to get from under somebody else and get on top of somebody else. I was like, that's the most craziest shit ever. But when you talk about that to somebody else, they identify it or they finish the sentence before you finish it. That is the craziest shit to me. Like, no one is like, hey, pump your brakes. You just got out of a situation. You know, you know how it went. You know the happenings of it. Like, pump your brakes, chill out a bit, work on you, restore yourself, love on yourself, find yourself. Like, all of those are things I wish more people would say instead of saying shit like you need to get from under them and get on top of somebody else. But it's shit like that that's normalized. I'm trying to, I'm over here trying to normalize therapy or normalize talking to someone about what you're experiencing. Because if no one has ever told you this, I'm going to tell you, holding that shit in only brings diseases, it brings heartache, it brings depression, it brings all of the anxiety, it brings all of that shit. You might not believe it, but if you Google it, you will see a lot of the things we have is from holding on to shit. Our bodies wasn't built to hold on to that. It was built to love. It was built to live. It was built to share or express. But we be out here fucking our bodies up because we holding on to shit when we really want to let it go, but we holding on to it because it's that fuels us every day. That trauma, that drama. I real life said, when you go on a journey of healing and self discovery, you start letting shit go, and you realize like right now, just go. If you could breathe and not think about what happened, what somebody said, or the bills you got, like, you could just breathe. Like, when do we get the opportunity to just breathe? I was so excited when I heard rest. I was too excited. I struggled with a bit because, once you constantly moving all of your life, you struggle trying to like just sit down and be still. But I figured it out now. I'm getting a little good at it. I'm getting a little good at it. I figured it out. I always said, man, I wish one day I had more time. You know why we're so consumed with our time is so consumed? Everybody be like, oh, you got the same 24 hours in a day I do. But some people don't because they're so consumed. They spend times like, oh man, I have to go to this job because I got to get a car, because I got to do this. I got to make sure this, I got to do, we always got to do something. But I want to encourage you right now today. I want to encourage you and say, take the time to breathe. Take the time to sleep. Take the time to rest. You rushing off to that job, but I guarantee you, if you get sick today, they're going to bring somebody else in to work your hours. Guarantee you. Guarantee you that. If you aren't okay, you ever notice how when you feeling angry or irritated or whatever, like every little thing, somebody could say hi with a little hi, and it's like, what the fuck you so happy for? And they're just happy. They're just radiating positivity to you, like, hi. They be excited to see you, but you irritated, and now you like, damn, I was just really happy to see you. Now they like, well, now you done cause their energy to come to a lower level. I don't wanna like this. I wanted to talk about intergenerational trauma because I feel like we don't think about it enough. A lot of these topics I just be saying, and I might hit on them as I'm talking to the podcast, but I wanted to be like, what the fuck is intergenerational trauma? It's the traumas that my grandparents, my mother, their mothers, my aunties and uncles, it's like all of that shit that they experience, and then it's like the next generation experience it. It's like generational curses. What is a generational curse? It's shit that wasn't handled in the generation before you, so now you have to deal with it. Nobody's teaching us how to deal with shit that was in a generation before us. Like, think about it, right? Think about the people that was surviving the crack era, right? Then what was it? It was crack, and then it was like the hip hop era was like pills and lean, and now it's like fentanyl, and is shit that you just be like, I wouldn't even think. Remember, it was bath salts. Like, it's shit like, who's talking? Like, I watch, Soft White Underbelly, right? Because in my mind, I just be thinking like, some people, if they really had a safe space or they had a place where they could talk about what they going through, or if they could hear somebody else talk about like, hey, I had those same experiences, they will know that they're not alone. They will know like, damn, I'm a parent, I'm a single mother and I'm 18, or I'm a single mother and I'm 21, or like, I'm a man and I got sexually molested when I was younger. Like, if we had more people to talk about that, like right now today, this is me personally, I right now today feel like insecurity wouldn't be at the level in which it's at. Like, I feel like more people will feel loved. I feel like more people would be okay with rejection. I feel like more people would um, be understanding of each other. I feel that's what I feel like. But right now, we don't care. I could say some fucked up shit to you today, and I would just sleep good. Not me. Of course, I'm saying like people would say some fucked up shit. Cause me, my heart, I wouldn't even sleep. I wouldn't. I'm gonna tell y'all, I wouldn't sleep. I wouldn't be able to eat because I would be like, you know what? Let's have a conversation because I'm not. It's not. I'm not. It's a no for me. But it's people out here who haven't been allotted the opportunity to talk out their frustrations or talk out their experiences of what they're going through. Number one, because they're afraid to be judged. They're afraid. Nobody wants to be judged. I don't care if you. I don't give a fuck. Let me look at the camera real good. I don't give a fuck if you judge me. I don't even care. It doesn't matter. It doesn't pay my bills. It don't do any of that. And you probably looking like Shell. It's easy for you to say that. It's just as easy as it is for me to say that. It's easier for you to say that too. Because my grandma used to say, if what people say and do don't pay your rent or don't put food on your table, clothes on your back, and a roof over your head, why the fuck does it matter? I just need to hear that one fucking time. It don't matter. You don't matter. Again, I'm gonna say some part of you, if you ever think about bullies, right, some part of them is broken. And then when you like research, like, even if you look at these people that's been out here doing this really, really crazy things about grocery stores and churches and schools and all that stuff, and then you look at those people, it's like those people they have mental problems. They do. But those people are people who they don't love themselves. Something is broken in them. And then they have these long old stories about abuse, or long stories about, and it's like somebody is like, everybody been abused. Okay, if everybody's been abused, isn't that something we should fucking talk about? Isn't that something like, okay, we should have like abuse hotlines, or I mean, I'm pretty sure we have these things, but like, isn't it something we should talk about? If you were in a relationship and there was abuse, and you left that relationship and went to something else thinking that it was going to get better, you haven't even had time to process the abuse from this last relationship, and now you're in something new. Our real life was sitting back, and I have this thing where I hear a story and I just can't, like, I can't take things for face value. That's what I'm going to say. I can't take things for face value. So when I hear a story or I hear something, I'm going to go down a rabbit hole finding everything that I could about the story. So a lot of these stories that's been coming up with like people unaliving themselves and kids and all of those things, I go and I look at the people's social media. I look at the last couple of things they do, and I was just like, if somebody in there, like, I'm going to say this, and people always be like, well, that's not their responsibility, but this is how I feel, right? I come here and I tell y'all, like, light, love, and positivity. I come here and I share shit with y'all because I want you to know you are not a fucking alone. You're not alone, and you can overcome it, right? If we around people and we see that things are going on with them and we don't say anything, we are pretty much guilty as the people that's actually doing it to them. Again, that's just my opinion. If you are an adult and you seeing a child displaying that they're being abused, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, sexually, and you don't do anything about that, you're just as guilty as that person. And you're probably like, how could you say something like that? Because I don't know anybody that could see a child. I'm gonna say a human being, period, something happening to them and you don't do anything. I know now we live in an age like I'm minding my business. I'm gonna say my business is to make sure. Listen, at this point, I'm tired of scrolling. I'm tired of looking at videos of people unaliving other people because of they have an argument or a disagreement or they're irritated or they're angry or I felt you could have did this, but you didn't say that to me before you did what you did. It's like in the moment, if you've looked at any one of the videos in this last month, right, since August 1st, if you looked at the videos in their last moments that they're pouring their heart out, maybe they did have the conversation before, but you didn't have it with as much passion as you having it right now. Like if we taught people, like especially if we taught men that it is okay to cry, not just men, anybody, everybody, that it is okay to cry and you should be able to talk about your feelings. Not punch walls, not slam doors, not walk out, not go cheat, not do any of that. You should be able to sit down and talk about how you feel, what you think, what's going on with you. And I know not everybody come from households where their parents talk to them about shit that happened, but how about we change the narrative? If your parents didn't talk to you about credit or finances or rent, or they didn't talk to you about responsibilities, of hell, if they didn't help you, show you how you separate white from colors, find somebody who will. If you are a parent, talk to your kids about that shit. Show them how to separate laundry. Show them all the shit. Like I be saying, like you hear people talk all the time, like, man, when I have a kid, I'm gonna do this, and then they have a kid, and you looking at them, and they're like, what happened to you? But if I say what happened to you, you'll be like, man, life is hard, man. But you knew that before you had a child. Like in my mind, I'd be thinking like, we never asked to be here. Like a large majority of us, we never asked to be here. So the least you could do while we're here is protect us, love us, and make sure that we grow up to be productive citizens in society. Protect and love being the greatest too for me. When I see my nieces and nephews, I love the hell out of them. I love them so much. I just talked to my brother today. I was like, I can't help it that your kids love the hell out of me. He's like, you can. And then we both started laughing. I was like, no, I can't. I mean, I try. I try. I don't try to be like the greatest auntie in the world. I just am. But it's like I want them to know, like they could come. They could come to my house anytime that they want to. And Cam's mom just said the other day, she's like, Cam gonna try to move in with you, and he's only 3. I was like, he sure is, cause you want to go home. I give kids options. That's what I realized. Like, when I was growing up, I had so many options. And I'm grateful for those options. I had options with like what kind of cereal I wanted to eat. I had options of like where I wanted to go, if I wanted to go to sleepovers, I had options. Like, people need options. People need to know that there's options. Like, Kira was over and she was like, TT, I don't know what I'm going to do because I'm bored. I was like, hey, you have options. We could go to the spa because she loved to do her spas. Like, we can go to the spa. You could take a nap. We can paint. Like, I listed all these different options. She was like, I didn't know that I could do all those things. I was like, yeah, you got options. She was like, oh, I got options. It's something about like when people know that they have options. It's like when you get angry, you could take a walk, you can breathe, you could sit down and you can ask yourself, why are you angry? There's options. Your first option should not to be to harm someone or to punch an inanimate object. That shouldn't be your first option. But we don't know that. No one's telling us you don't have to punch that wall. You don't have to punch that. You don't. have to punch anything. Talk. Cry. I'll be the first to, you could cry, you could talk. I'll be here, I'll be talking and crying. I've been really emotional these last couple of days. I realized something about myself, like when I'm in the processing mode. Um, I'm processing things quicker now. Like before, I would just throw it in the back of my mind. It's like, okay, I'll get to that. I'm not gonna deal with that today, cause But now it is no. I'm gonna throw it in the back of my mind. Like when the shit happened, it's like, okay, I'm processing it, and I'm like, hey, this is what I think. This is not what I think. This is how I feel. Um, at this time, I need to remove myself from this because it doesn't serve me. It's not serving me. Um, I feel like I've done the best that I can, and I've literally had to grieve situations that I never thought I would even have to. Cause if you are the type of person that's like, I can do literally everything that I can, and if the shit still don't work, I'm okay with it not working. I'm okay. Before it was like, no, it gotta work. Now it's like, I'm okay. Once I know that I did everything that I can humanly possibly do, and I gave 100%, and it still doesn't work, I'm okay. Before, if shit failed, I'd be like, damn, oh, woe is me. But now it's like, no, let me figure out what worked, what didn't work, what could I have done better. That's how I realized that I procrastinate because if I don't have that pressure of procrastination, I won't do it. I mean, not procrastination, but that pressure where it's like that last minute, because that's how I was operating before. But now it's like, I said to myself this week, I was like, you have a whole content calendar that you filled out. I'm literally checking off the things on my content calendar. There's no reason for me to be procrastinating. I have nothing but free time. So I got videos that's going, y'all see it this week, videos that's just going to come out. It's just like that time that I prayed for, that time that I wished for, that time that I hoped for, where I could do the things that I wanted to do, the things that made me happy. I have it. Hey, Jamela, I have nothing but free time right now. So I was sitting here, it's like I'm looking at my website, and I was like, oh, I want to build out the platform. I want to do this. And then, it's like when you're so used to like, okay, I'm going to hit this person. I was like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm capable of doing, so I'm going to do it. I literally I dust off so many skills this week. I was tripping my own self out. Like, I forgot I knew how to do that. I forgot I knew. I forgot. And now I'm in a space where it's like, I'm able to talk. I'm able to like talk about where I'm at and what I'm thinking. And I have no fear in telling someone where to get on and get off. And I have no, like, I am just in a space where I enjoy peace and freedom. And freedom is something that I don't think most people will ever experience. I want them. I want everybody to, but until you really have that personal talk or journey with yourself, I don't think I don't think people will experience it. Until you really be like, you know what? I can't keep blaming this shit on my childhood. I can't keep blaming this shit on my parents. I can't keep blaming this shit on my ex. I can't keep blaming this shit on my kids. I can't. Once you figure out like I'm gonna stop blaming people, I'm gonna just take this accountability for my own actions. And you really start seeing like, damn, you know what? I could have. I said to myself like, man, when I if I could. When I tell y'all gonna see the things that's been happening in my life, and I even smile. You start noticing things about yourself, right? I even smile different. Like I smile different. I feel different. I feel different. Like I feel like The more things that I let go, the more things I understand, um, the more things I understand about myself, the more things I understand about my family, the more things I'm able to like tell the generations beneath me. I tell them if I experience something, I tell them everything. I let them know like, hey, even with I don't have kids, but I've raised literally everybody underneath me and their kids, and I say, like, I share my little wisdoms or whatever. And then the most important thing is like I tell them time, especially in the first 5 7 years of their life. That's the most important time. My niece Jamila, she's in the chat. She's in high school now. We were laughing because I was like, I remember when I first walked. Every time I say this, she be like, "Titi, you gonna tell that story?" Yes, I remember when I first walked her to school. It's it just like now I look at them like I've been in this house for 7 years. Every one of my nieces and nephews have grew up in this house, like real life. Like I can be on a street in the facilitated area and they know where they're going. They know that they're coming to my house. Cam the other day, Cam was so I took a different route to my house. Cam was so mad. He said, "I go to TT house." Cameron said, Cameron wants to go to TT house. I said, "Cameron, you are going to my house." "No, that's the street over there." I said, "You don't even know streets." That's me being an adult. "You don't even know streets." And then I turned the corner. He's like, "Yes, TT, you." He said, "No, I got to do it." He said, "Yay, TT, you did it. You know where your house is." And I'm just like, it's my house. But he knew where my house was and it made him happy to come. So for me, it just was like, I want my nieces and nephews. Like I said, I wish I would have been able to do some of the stuff I do with my nieces and nephews, with my auntie and uncles. Like not my Uncle Ed. I'll tell you about my Uncle Ed for a minute. Now my Uncle Ed, he's a hip hop artist. Um, he like the old school b boy, Kangos, all of that. Like he was that dude. So he bought me my first Pelly Pale coat. If you know the Pelly Pale coat, like it was green. Actually, I didn't even think about this, but I'm gonna do it when I get off of here to see if I can find it. He bought me my first Pelly Pale coat. He bought me the first Usher album. He bought me a Usher replica chain, and he bought me a Brewers jersey. I thought I was a stuffed boy. Like a Pelly Pals. Most adults didn't even have a Pelly Pal, but my uncle's like, "Yeah, you do." I was flexing, like, "Yeah." But then I started to think about all the things that he told me. Like, he schooled me on the game, like real life schooled me on the game. Like the dating relationship game. It's funny because like people's like, "Are you ready to say?" I'm like, "No, no," and I laughed because I have this thing that I don't care where I go or who I'm talking to. I don't care who you are. Like I look at your nails. He was the one that was like, "Oh, look, if the nails is," I look at your nails. Like I try to keep my nails clean. I try, but when you scratch your hair anyways, but I try to keep my nails clean. So I find myself doing it, and I laugh because I was like, man, he told me that so long ago, but I remembered it. Or like my Uncle James. Now my Uncle James is like, he's like one of those philosophical people where they want to talk to you. I used to call every time I go hang out with him. It was always a lecture session, and he would share some things with me that I just wasn't. I was thinking about it, but I really wasn't thinking about it. I'm 20 something. I'm gonna do that in my 30s, my 40s. Don't even know if I'm gonna get there, but when I get older, I'll worry about that. But then in my 20s, it was like I real life started figuring shit out. Like they say, by the time you're 25 or by the time you're 30, you should have everything figured out. I don't think you ever have things figured out. I think you will have an idea about shit. Like right now, all these people are trying to do credit, and it's like, oh, credit, 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 credit. You could have the greatest credit in the world and still not get a house and still not get like racism is real. Um, Everybody's talking like I've always been the type like when there's like a big like push for things, I always be I check like the news and I pay attention. I keep my ear to the street because you know about what's going on. And that's why when I say, hey, you guys need to get some non-perishable food items, some toiletries, some water, get you some disinfectants and stuff like that. I'm saying it because there's things happening that's not being broadcast in the news. Like there's a dog that had some kind of virus or something, and I was like, wait, how would the dog? You know what? Never mind. So once you start seeing this, and then there's like an investigation at the CDC, and I'm sitting here thinking like, yeah, there should have been an investigation at the CDC. Like, how is all of these diseases and stuff from back then? Like I was telling my mom the other day, I was like, do you remember polio? She was like, yeah, they was giving polio shots at school. Polio, whatever it is, shots in school. And I was like, wait, y'all got shots in school? She was like, yeah. I was like, I don't remember getting shots in school. And then if you think about that needles that was like them thick needles. It's enough for me. I just be thinking about how, I don't want to say privileged, but how fortunate we are with the advancements in technologies. And that's even when I think about music artists, right? I think about like Anita Baker. I said her before, but I think about like when they were growing up and like, or she was singing and performing, like there's no way they could have knew about streaming or videos or like TikTok or none of that. There's just no way they could have known about that. And so in my mind, I was like, how do they negotiate, or how is that negotiated? Because technically, after a certain number of years, your rights are supposed to go back to you. Um, how? Who's talking to us about that? Like now, like watch what I tell you. I'm gonna say it first. Watch what I tell y'all. How more people start talking about life insurance. People are starting to wake up to the knowledge of life insurance and like borrowing against the life insurance, or paying into it and using and borrowing a loan, like taking a loan against your life insurance, all of that. I'm not telling you to do it, but I am telling you to like start paying attention. If you don't have health insurance, definitely get you some. Yes, poetic CNT. I just was seeing people that were catching COVID again. I was like, I know I'm not crazy, but I know that I'm not the only one that's still like two I'm like 2020 with it when it comes to that. Like I only go outside to go to the grocery store if my mom needs to go to the grocery store, or she has a doctor appointment, or I have a doctor appointment. That's the only times that I am outside. And I'm around the same, like my nieces and nephews, my mother, my brothers, like I'm around those people all the time. Other than that, I don't be out here. I had COVID. I know. Yeah, it's a no for me. It's a no. I don't want it again. I don't want COVID. I don't want monkeypox. I don't want Ebola. I was thinking, I said, I had chicken pox back in the days. I said, now if chicken pox come back, you know something. Like we already know something right now, but if chicken pox come back, so I was like, okay, they were talking about monkeypox. I was like, so basically it's like chickenpox, because I remember going to the actual hospital and I had like a really severe case of chickenpox, and then my friend from school had a really severe case of measles. Do y'all remember having to get a measles, mumps, and rubella shot? I remember all of that, and I was just thinking like, man, like we've come through. I've come through some really crazy times. Really, really crazy times. And how I survived half of the shit that I came through, I don't even know. But I told Tomboy the other day, I said, my 40s, I am only light, love, and positivity. Peace. Let me say peace, light, love, and positivity by any means necessary. Any means. If I have to stay in my house and just order Amazon, or just be in here, I'm fortunate enough, or like the doctors. I mean, of course, if I'll figure out next Thursday um, if I have to have another surgery. I am hoping for a no. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for a no, or I'm hoping for an alternative that doesn't include steroids. That's what I'm hoping for. A no for surgery, but if they do have to do it, I don't want to be put to sleep again. It's those things. I'll be thinking, like, people out here worried about what kind of shoes they gonna wear or rims they gonna put on their car or BBLs and all of that shit. And there's people real life out here thinking about where they gonna eat, what they gonna eat, where they gonna sleep. It's people. I'm definitely including your mom in my prayers. Poetic CNT. It's people out here who are struggling with COVID, or grieving, or depression, or mental illness, and they're looking for a way out. I'm going to tell you, find you a safe space. I say therapy. I will always say therapy, but find you a safe space. Again, I put in the chat, it's Emily. Hold on, let me put it in there again. It's Emily Has Balls. And it's about the young lady, or she's a woman, and she has both parts. Do I want to say? I don't want to say it wrong, but her name is Emily Quinn, and she has both male and female. Is it reproductive organs? I don't know, y'all, but she has both of them. And the way she talked about it was just like, that's how I wish more people, like, I wish more people would talk about it. And that's literally the title. You'll see it once you click it. That's literally the title of the TEDx talk. Because when you think about it, right? If you actually think about it, right? Like, what if you're a parent and your child comes to you and say, "Mom and Dad, I identify as non-binary," or they. Because some parents, because of their religious, oh, some parents, because of their religious beliefs, oh, I ain't gonna be able to get it this time, or maybe I am. Sorry, I think I broke it. Um. Some parents are not able to handle that. Even that. Even homosexuality, right? It's a taboo subject to be talked about. It's a taboo. It's taboo. Like, parents would be real upset when they kids say, "Oh, I'm gay," and it's like, what are people going to think about me? How are people going to look at me now that my son is gay or my daughter is gay? Or what people going to think? Instead of, let me love my child. My child is already going to have it tough, especially if they're a child of color, or if they're black or a child of color. They're already going to have it hard. So let me just love them. Let me love on them so much, because I know when they go outside of my house, life is already going to do a number on them. Let me love them. Instead, parents want to kick their kids out. There's the whole theory of, I'm going to beat it out of you. There's the whole thing, I'm going to pray it away from you. It's like, what if you pray and it doesn't change? What if you pray? What if you beat them and they don't change? What happens then? Do you start to love them? Or do you... When I think about the whole story of, I real life feel like this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to I'm gonna start doing this in September. I really feel like I should like tell Bible stories, but like tell them, like not like the Bible, but like tell say it where people can understand it. Because when you hear about God, God hating gays and God is abomination and all that stuff, like that shit that's been repeated over and over and over and over and over. So once something is repeated over and over, it kind of just becomes a law, or it kind of just becomes that thing. When in reality, it's like somebody should dispel that. Like, yeah, I know in the Bible it says it's an abomination to for men to lie with men, but what is the context? That's something I learned in school. What is the context? It's like, what do you mean context? Because clearly it was an abomination to eat seafood. And we all, if you on YouTube, you see seafood. Boy, it was like every day, all the time. It's an abomination to mix linen. It's an abomination to take the Lord God name in vain. There's a lot of abominations. Or like the fact that people think that Sodom and Gomorrah has to do with homosexuality. It's like, how are you studying this religion but you don't even know the story of it? So when I say that, people that's religious be looking at me like, oh, you trying to, no, I'm just like, you don't even know the story of it. Like, out of all 66 books of the Bible, God only uses one story to say, hey, this is why I don't like gays. No. No, no. That's not even it. That's why I'm gonna do the whole storytelling. Cause I really want people to look at the story of David and Jonathan. Cause if you looked at the story of David and Jonathan, or Ruth and Naomi, you would definitely be like, wait, what? I, hmm. But I'll tell you the story about it at a later time. But I feel like parents, aunties, uncles, sisters, brothers, family members need to do more loving. And I'm not telling you to love the Uncle Pete or Auntie Sally or Uncle Pete Juniors. I'm not telling you to love them. I am telling you to love them, but I'm not telling you to just forget what they did to you. No, don't do that. Because you'll never, the reality of it is, let me tell you a reality I realized. You will never forget it. You know how people be in the nursing homes and they be like, oh, they don't remember, but then they always talk about that, like when they do speak or they are talking, it's from their childhood. Can you imagine the people that grew up plantation owners, or that grew up in a really racist family, what they remember? And now they're not working, they're living in nursing homes or being taken care of by people of color. Imagine the racist people that go to hospitals and there's like a person of color as their doctor. You think they're like, no, I don't get my arm hanging off, but I don't want you to see me. Some of them are, but they want you to get their arm back on. I don't want it to be for you where it's like shit has got to the highest level of high and then it's like I don't have any other option. No, I want you to find a safe space. Find a safe space. If you can even talk to your family members, talk to your family members. And if you feel like it is important for you to set a boundary with your family members, with your mother, your siblings, anybody, set that boundary. I did a couple of weeks ago. Breaks, boundaries, breaks, boundaries. I don't remember the other one. Balance, breaks, and boundaries. We need to have that in our lives. If you feel like you need to cry, cry. If you feel like you need to talk about it, talk about it. Like if you ever thought about it, oh, I'm angry. Why are you angry? Start asking yourself the tough questions. That's what I'm saying. Start asking yourself the tough questions. Well, that's all I got, y'all. I just want to touch on intergenerational traumas and how the traumas of the people before us can and are currently affecting us. If you think about all the people in the 60s who never had, who who never been to the doctor, who have never uh, saw a therapist, who experienced like bipolar or any one of the mental illnesses and never got treated for it. And they always knew something was different about them, or something wasn't right, or something was off. And they just never went to get help because they didn't want, like, there's a stigma. There's a stigma when you get help for mental health. There's a stigma with that. Think about all the parents who, or the grandparents who knew that something was wrong and didn't get help. It's time to get help. It's 2022. We got 5 months left in this year. It's time to get help. You survived a global fucking pandemic, monkeypox, Ebola, polio, your life, abuse. You survived people talking about you, people judging you. You survived all of that. Don't you want to be happy? Like, not happy because you're in a relationship, or not happy because you got some new shoes, or happy because you got a raise on your job that you don't even like, but happy where you just wake up and you like, I'm doing exactly what I knew I would be doing one day. Happy. You wake up and it's like, or you just go outside, or you able to pick up the camera or whatever it is that you do, and you do it without no reservations. Happy. I want to encourage everybody to check out Emily Has Balls. It'll definitely give you a different way of looking at things in your life. I'm going to say that because it definitely gave me a different outlook on things. I already think different from a lot of people. And that definitely changed the way that I look at people and things. But that's all I got. I appreciate y'all for coming and hanging out with me. Those of you who came in and out, I appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, follow, hit the notification bell. If you have a topic that you would like to have discussed or hear about, or you think needs to be addressed, send me a DM, leave it in the comments. All of my information is in the description box. Remember that it is important for you to use your words. That is the only way that anyone will ever know what you are feeling and what you are thinking. And I will never let a live video, vlog, short, or anything that I present to you go out without me telling you to love yourself. All of your faults, your fears, your failures, all of your fuck ups, all of the things that you shoulda, coulda, woulda did, but you didn't. Love yourself in spite of all of that. You have to. It's 2022. You got 5 more months to correct all of that. Know yourself enough that you are better than everything that has ever come to you. You're better than that. Yeah, you probably got knocked down a little bit, but guess what? Get up, dust yourself off, and keep moving. Trust yourself enough to know that you will always do what is best for you. You should always do. You should always do what is best for you. And for the love of humanity, just be yourself. Everybody else is already taken. We need you to be that person when you wake up in the morning, before you put on the makeup, before you put on the clothes or the cologne or the jewelry. We need you to be that person you are when you look at yourself in the mirror while you're brushing your teeth. We need you to be that person. No more putting on, no more faking, no more, I was going to say no more wearing the mask, but you should still wear your mask. But no more of that. We need you to be the authentic you. Somebody needs to hear what you have to say. Somebody needs to watch you. Somebody needs to know what you know. Share it. Create a YouTube. Create a TikTok. Whatever it is, share it. Your experiences can help somebody else. Of course, don't forget to get toiletries, non-perishable food items, some disinfectant, water, first aid kits, all of that. Get all of that. Get you some change, dollars, store up, candles, all of that. Get you all of that. That's all I got. I love you. Until next time.